Hello guys. Long time no see. I'll tell you why a bit later. Well, now let's get to the topic of the video. You've probably already guessed from the picture, right? Which electrodes to buy, which not to, which are good, which are bad. About ESAB OK 46 electrodes, probably only a lazy person hasn't made a video. I'm catching up with everyone as usual. Let's look specifically at what's wrong with them. There are two packs of electrodes. They look similar, identical, yellow, 5.3 kilograms each. Made the bottom ones in Tyumen, the top ones in St. Petersburg. They look the same, but differ in color. The bottom Tyumen ones are lighter. The top St. Petersburg ones are such a dark color. The electrode tips are not coated with flux, which facilitates ignition. Ideally, the weld bead should have such a smooth surface without breaks, fine scale like this. This was welded with electrodes from St. Petersburg production. Well, let's see visually how they weld. We see that the St. Petersburg ones are dark. I'm welding with my EVM machine. It's a TIG machine, but it also has a stick welding function, though the open circuit voltage is only 45 volts. As we can see, that's enough. No breaks. The slag crust is even and smooth. The arc never broke once if you hold the electrode tip tightly. No breaks. And we try the same with a Tyumen electrode. The current for it has to be set a bit lower. I set it 5 amps lower. Actually, it needs to be even lower, around 60 amps. Because the flux composition is different, more porous. Well, and as we can see, there are breaks, they appeared. The weld area gets covered with such a strange white coating. The St. Petersburg electrodes didn't have such a large coating. Somewhat less. Although I hold the electrode tip tightly, it doesn't really help. There's not enough open circuit voltage to maintain a stable arc. We see a lot of breaks. Well, here, almost the same current is set. We see, on the left Tyumen with breaks, on the right, St. Petersburg. The difference is clearly visible. Well, okay, maybe it's the machine's fault. Here I have a cool machine, Fronius Austrian. Here the open circuit voltage is claimed to be 100 volts. The multimeter shows 80 volts. Well, that should be plenty. Left is Tyumen electrode, right? St. Petersburg, a dark one like that. I had to set different currents because, as I say, the flux composition differs. The St. Petersburg flux is more refractory. I have to set about 5 to 10 more amps for the same weld positions. As we can see, the machine, of course, helps because it has better circuitry, somehow supports the arc better. But the difference is still there. The issue we can see now is not in the machine. Well, that's fine. There's this machine from Yandex. No curd. One person left it, so it's just sitting there, still hasn't been picked up yet. It differs in that its open circuit voltage is the same as Fronius, 80 volts. The multimeter shows that, at least. Well, there you go. But it costs much cheaper, about 20 times less, around 5 to 6,000 rubles. As we can see, with this Tyumen electrode, there will also be breaks here. That is, it's not even about the open circuit voltage. Of course, it helps too, but we see that the process is even more stable in expensive machines. I'm not a specialist in inverters, but you can feel a different arc density with the Fronius machine. But it costs a lot of money, of course. But the thing is, even a machine with high open circuit voltage somehow didn't help much. The problem is precisely in the Tyumen electrodes themselves. Yes, these additional 35 volts provide a bit more stability for ignition, unlike my EVM. But we see that the same pits remain, clearly visible, all the same. If you clean it, it's even more visible. Moreover, until about 2022, there wasn't much difference. I bought both Tyumen and St. Petersburg production. The difference was barely noticeable. But then at some point you buy a pack, open it, and it's just no good at all. You think, what's going on? You start turning the machine knobs, swapping them around, but the situation doesn't get better. So what now? Should everyone buy expensive machines? All sorts of Fronius EWM can't be ESAB for $1,500? No, of course not. Buy electrodes from St. Petersburg production, as long as they weld more or less okay. And hope that someday the management of the Tyumen plant will finally visit the St. Petersburg plant, see how they make this flux coating, and learn to do the same. Of course, it's advisable to get a machine with higher open circuit voltage. It does help somewhat. Although in this case with this Yandex machine, it didn't really help much. Fronius somehow stabilizes the arc with these Tyumen electrodes, and this one not much better. A little better, of course, than the EVM with 45 volts. Here it's 80 after all. But it still doesn't completely fix the situation. I'm not a physicist or chemist, of course, but I think this flux coating quality affects the quality or quantity of gases produced to shield the weld pool from air, right? To stabilize the process so droplets transfer smoothly into the pool. And here, apparently, the flux quality is poor. Gases are released worse, or there's simply not enough of them. And the shielding zone is insufficient, Air gets in, brakes appear, the arc breaks. That's probably the only reason, because the conditions are maximally identical. The same socket, the same machines, the same steel plates. Everything is the same. The difference, as we see, is obvious. First I thought, maybe I got the electrodes from the wrong place. Okay, bought from another place, and exactly the same picture. Tyumen ones don't weld, St. Petersburg ones do. And the Tyumen ones behave strangely. Up to half the electrode burns like this, breaks back and forth, the arc wanders. And then, from about halfway, the process becomes normal. How do they manage that? Unclear. This Fronius machine, of course, stabilizes the arc as best it can, probably because they use expensive components. I made a review about it. And as I told you, if a firmware update doesn't come out before winter, and a firmware update, by the way, still hasn't been officially released on the website, then I'll most likely sell it. Because, as I already said in the video, it has too long of an arc drag, a long arc. I would like not have to set a hot start of 1 second, but rather 0.1 to 0.3, max 0.5 seconds. And with such characteristics, it's uncomfortable to weld heating pipes or profile tubes. You want 0.1 to 0.3, so it doesn't spatter. Otherwise, if you set the arc length for 45 volts and set 1 second, it kind of works with a drag, doesn't extinguish the arc, but this hellish ignition interferes. In general, not it. I'll probably get an EWM instead. If, of course, there's still no firmware in the next month or two, I'll get rid of it. Because the machine is good, it ignites the arc stably and holds it confidently. But I want more. I also said about this Yandex machine that it has a long arc drag and also not a very honest current. I'll make a review about it under the video in the description. If anyone's interested, check it out. Back to the electrodes. People started noticing this a long time ago, that Tyumen ones weld worse. And naturally, if you have the opportunity, if you're there in a hardware store rummaging, for example, in Leroy Merlin, you have the chance to flip these packs. Yeah, before buying, look for it to say made in St. Petersburg, not Tyumen. Of course, people have gotten a bit lazy now. Not everyone goes specifically for these electrodes. Naturally, it's easier to order from marketplaces. And there, when you search for these electrodes on the same Ozon or Wildberries, there will be a bunch of questions everywhere. Exactly St. Petersburg production? Which one, Tyumen or St. Petersburg? In general, you'll see all these questions. And some sellers immediately post where there's a large sticker or a big photo that it's definitely made in Petersburg. The annoying thing is that these Tyumen electrodes and St. Petersburg production cost the same, but weld differently. Overall, I give these Tyumen electrodes this rating. They weld roughly like Electrodes worth, while maximum 1,000 rubles for 5 kilograms, yeah. And they also smell. When you weld, there's a smell like burnt, dirty rags. Something unpleasant like that. And with these St. Petersburg ones, you weld, there's such a pleasant smell, like you feel yourself. I don't know, in a welding shop, you just want to keep welding. It's neutral, just like it should be in general. The flux on Tyumen electrodes is worse. And where can they be used? They're suitable if you need to cut some metal with high current. Yeah, burn holes, maybe cut a plate vertically. Or weld in spots, for example, vertical seams, heating pipes. Because when you weld in spots, there's not much difference in principle, whether the arc breaks or not, because you control it yourself anyway. But somehow this spatter seems to become more. I don't know how to explain it. Next, where have I been for a month and a half? I've been doing all sorts of experiments aimed at improving the video. In 1, 2, 3 videos, you'll notice these improvements. And I'd like to briefly say about all this apparatus advertising that I'm already so sick of. All this unboxing of these boxes, it's just stuck in my throat. I can't stand seeing them. In principle, it's already become clear that every firm, Chinese, European, has 1, 2, 3 successful machines at most, and the rest are so. And I don't really see the point in testing them because there are enough reviewers on YouTube. So what has all this led to, right? If you want to tell the truth about these machines on YouTube, after a while, companies will stop sending them to you because they need to sell more of these machines. They send a technical assignment where you have to read everything from a script, keep quiet about the minuses, praise the pluses, or gloss over the minuses smoothly, right? Naturally, my conscience tells me not to do that. Yes, of course, they lure with money, though what money, pennies, not worth selling your conscience for. And I've come to this conclusion. A person will buy some machine. They'll watch bloggers, look at pictures like the display on this machine, buy it. Here it is, plugged in welds. And then the problem begins. How to weld, right? I think that in this changing world, machines exist for 5 to 10 years and go away. But welding technique, how exactly to weld, right? That won't go anywhere. The process of welding metals will be the same even in 50 to 100 years. Two pieces of iron will be welded exactly the same with an electrode. In 100 years, nothing will have changed at all because welding progress is very slow. It's not like iPhones, where every year there are new cameras, processors. Here, if something appears, it's once every 20 to 30 years. Like, for example, an auto-darkening welding helmet, or when we moved from transformers to inverters, 30 years passed. They just became more compact, maybe. All these buttons, little displays appeared, but fundamentally nothing has changed. And so after doing these reviews for, 3 to 4 years, in principle, it's all clear. Some machines are successful, some less so, but I haven't found a perfectly ideal one. Might as well make it myself. So let's leave all these reviews to other bloggers who are after money, who are ready to spit on their conscience and hype up every machine, saying, hey guys, buy this. Yes, of course, there are good machines among them. You go on Ozon, on Wildberries, you wouldn't have enough life to review every machine. So if I do make reviews, it'll be on some specific ones like, okay, this one I really need to review. I'll somehow get it and finally do it. Or companies that will write to me and offer some super conditions so I finally review their machine. Because over these 3 to 4 years, gradually everyone has left. No one wants me to look for minuses, flaws in the machines. All these firms, PTK, Rosanna, and Svarig, and even Foxweld, which resisted for a long time and kept sending machines, finally gave up. I'm like, well, okay, I'm tired of your machines myself, of unboxing these boxes. I wanted naturally to film the welding process, various tricky spots. Well, there should be someone on these platforms, YouTube, Zen, VK Video, and others to tell it like it is. Because wherever you look, wherever you click. Yeah, you want to buy a quality angle grinder, you watch a bunch of reviews, still don't understand which one is good. Watched everywhere, great, everywhere good. Buy, order, buy. Actually, about 90% of them can be sent to the dump as a rule. What can I say? Conscience won. You can't earn all the money. But as one person named Yeshua Hanatsri said, is it easy and pleasant to speak the truth? Exactly. It's so pleasant. You take a thing and talk about it in your own words. You see some shortcomings and talk about them. I can allow myself some small things, for example, reviews of consumables like electrodes, buy them by the kilo, for example, from Ozon, Wildberries, do tests. Maybe some wire, flux cord, or regular steel. In general, I can do reviews on consumables. I'll find a means for all that. But as for bigger things, like some machines, maybe only if a subscriber sends one, or something. So we're waiting for the next videos. Now they'll be more frequent, because I've made some improvements for myself to sort of put the videos on a conveyor belt, so they come out more often. Because I do everything alone. No helpers. Well, I wish you success in the next year, 2026. I hope it will be better than 2025 because all sorts of things are happening, right? We hope for the best. And for those who like the video, bye.